Happy Bunta Eve, everybody, and welcome back to All New Nerds Live, where we are talking The Mandalorian, and we're talking Bad Batch. Two
Outpost.
episodes, one night. And,
One night only.
one night
Actually, it's like 5 nights of the season that we're
Yeah,
getting
it's true.
2 episodes.
So just a lot to talk about. Just me and Levi here today. No Johnny. He might pop in later. Who knows with that guy?
Allegedly.
But happy
yeah,
Bunta Eve, man.
Bunta Eve.
Yeah,
This is
happy
a
Bunta.
pretty big Star Wars day. These are probably. I mean, this might be the best Star Wars day. I know. Maybe we'll discuss it. Your feelings on the episode of Mando, but I think on the whole, what I've seen is this is probably the best Star Wars day in terms of just content individually in a while.
In a while.
One day, in a long while. And I'm except for IGN. IGN gave Mando episode a 5 out of 10, which is nuts to me. But,
Yeah, that is.
but we'll talk about that. On this Bunta Eve, though, we do have some guests, some usual guests, the usual suspects. First off, we got Brent, Age of Grogu.
Hey guys, how's it
You
going?
know him. You know him. You love him. If you watch this channel,
Maybe they don't.
you know who Brent is. And then also the Chad himself, Echo, the Bad Batch professional. He's our new professional Bad Batch watcher, Ben, because now you're officially on the channel.
Sure.
So this guy's
There you
the
go.
Bad Batch guy.
I am.
How you guys
And-
doing today on this Star Wars day? Do you agree with the
Great. Oh
I-
god, yeah.
Man.
I agree. We had
Both-
two 10 out of 10 episodes. So.
Both epic episodes. Oh my god, crazy.
Chad hitting it with a 10-10.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
easily. This is
I
easily
yeah, that's it for me
best
too.
episodes of both shows.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's
far.
a take. That's a take.
What was tough is having them both in one night. It's just like, oh my god.
One morning for some of us.
Yeah. Oh yes. For sure.
All right,
Um,
so I think we should talk Mando first because that's
Yeah.
that's the big one. That's the one people are talking about. Unfortunately, Bad Batch overshadowed, as always, or at least as it was last.
I don't
year.
know,
Sadly,
actually.
yeah.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
throw this out here,
I don't know about
even
that.
though we're gonna get into Mando first. Bad Batch episode was better, in my opinion.
Oh,
Okay.
easily.
Like
Okay.
I
I think it
enjoyed
was
just that,
better.
like as a Star Wars story, like that was peak. We'll get to that. I only have praise for Bad Batch. I might have a few negative things to say about Mando, but I don't know. Let's just get into it. I want to hear what you think about it, Chad. You said 10 out of 10, so just give us your take.
I mean, I was not ready for a mythosaur at the end there. Should have been. I was rewatching Alex Star Wars Explains like recap to remind me what happened in the episode, and he was like, "Yeah, should have expected a mythosaur." After the armorer said that in the recap, and I was like, "Yeah, I should have done that," but that was still awesome.
I was gonna say, yeah, the armors. The recap's like, remember the mythosaur bit?
Yeah.
He was like, "That seems odd, but okay."
Yeah.
Comes up at the end. Oh, all right. Was not ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was surprised we've got this far so quickly because I really don't know. I always imagined that the story by at least mid-season, maybe later half the season, we'd get to this point. And we've got to this point so quickly. I'm curious and excited to see what the remaining part of the story is going to be all about. Because I really haven't been reading into it. I don't know too much about it. I know there's a lot of spoilers out there, but I have been avoiding where it goes. So with that, it's like, holy crap, we have got a lot to be invested into, of new stuff that we just don't know yet. I'm excited.
Well, just from the way the Mandalorian as a show has established itself before, if this was season one is very much protect the child, and that's the driving force. And you get a lot of episodes, and then you get a little bit of climax with Moff Gideon, the main villain, comes in the second to last episode, and
Yeah.
and then you get some tension there. Season 2, get this kid to the Jedi, and that's the whole journey. This
Yep.
season, it seemed like, go to the mines of Mandalore. Oh, and then it'll take an episode to get this chip for IG-11. It'll do this and this and this. But no, yeah, in the first 5 minutes
Yeah.
of this episode, it was
Mhm.
all right. We've dealt with that thing from last time. You got
Yeah.
R5 now. Let's just go, and we're there. This is
Yeah.
the mines of Mandalore, and so
Yeah.
already we have so much more to cover. Like the story opens up. There's been a lot of interviews with John and Dave recently, and John has been quoted a lot as saying, "This is only, we're not actually that far into the story at all, and this is just the beginning."
Mhm.
And now it feels more than ever that Book of Boba and Mando, those first 3 seasons of storytelling, were purely just laying the
Let's
groundwork
get to
of this
this
era.
level.
So you
Yeah.
could now start telling a story where
Yeah.
I'm watching Bo-Katan in live action walk through the city of Sundari. I'm like, wow, we're here? Like, I would have never
Yeah.
thought that
Oh my
watching
God, it's
season
so
1 of
gorgeous.
this one.
and use
Yeah.
the dark saber at
and the
the
dark
same
saber.
time.
So,
And
yeah,
use,
so-
I love it when she pulls out the little shield thing.
yeah,
And
the
I was like,
shield and the
yeah,
sword
yeah.
combo.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
That one moment that she brings up the shield and has the sword like this,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it's great.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
to the
so
point
sweet.
of the plot moving along very fast. Definitely been the high point in the season so far, just in terms of how it's shaping up, like structurally. Because compare this episode 2 to season 2, The Passenger, and I think we look back to season 2 as being this like crazy like banger season with all these cameos and like episode 2. I mean, it's not a bad episode, but it's very slow. Probably most people's bottom of the list as far as episodes go, and there's not a whole lot going on there. And then the season obviously just like went on from there. But just the fact that we're getting this quality and I don't want to say like it's not cameo stuff, but just like sort of big like Clone Wars tie-ins, like Rebels implications with episode 1 and then Mythosaur, and just like like Levi said, they're walking around Sundari, and it's like we're getting into it so fast, which is just like that's awesome that 2 episodes in we've seen so much. And yeah, like Brent said, where the story can go. I mean, 6 more episodes, and like I don't know, lots gonna happen.
I was going to say that I mean, it didn't bother me that last week was a shorter episode. I think it was like 34 minutes or something like that long. And then this week was what, 44 minutes or 45 minutes, something like that. But I kind of like the build up that first story was, just setting your intermission speech, I guess, the whole setup and the layout. And they really did. They got through a lot last week. But this week just was full on for me. It just like full on was invested in that time of giving us everything that we were expecting the half of the season to be about. So,
Brent, before I forget, I watched your reaction today. And I thought it was funny at the end. Jason was giving you a little bit of guff for trying to lock down the timeline on the purge.
He's like, "What are you talking about, bro?"
But he always say that. Yeah, we were just having a big conversation on his channel about fan service. But
that's a conversation I want to have too. But I guess briefly I can touch on the fan service thing because we'll get to the purge. But yeah, when we're talking about everything that's just been said in season 2, one of the main criticisms was. It was the fan service criticism. Detractors of that season are like, it's just a cameo fest and it's detracting from Din Djarin's story. That's not personally something I agree with. But by this point, by Mando 3, I think we have to accept that in this universe that Dave established with Clone Wars and Rebels, this is just the story now. So Bo-Katan and the Darksaber and all this stuff that we're bound to get just from the trailers.
A mythosaur.
Like it's no longer fan service. This is just the story that they've built the tools.
It's the world that exists.
This is a world that exists. And so
totally.
I think Ben, you were saying, there's a lot of, it was just plot, like lore and plot of now
it's Star Wars
stuff. It's Star Wars stuff. Bo-Katan is talking about, when she says my family used to rule this planet. And obviously you think of Satine and you know that her relationship to when she's talking about how her dad died defending Mandalore, my brain goes, okay, well, that was probably in the Mandalorian Civil War where she was on the side against Satine, right? And like that family definitely got split apart. And she is, hand waving, like, because she was on the side of the Death Watch. Like she was not on the good side of the Civil War. And it's just, and she I don't know. I just love everything that's been happening with Bo-Katan. I'm so glad that she's a lead now because she wouldn't be considered. She was the fan service in, say, The Heiress. It's like, we have Bo-Katan just has to show up. It's like, no, this is a character I want to explore because she's been established. Absolutely. And here we go.
I mean, fan service for me was R5D4. When R5D4 popped up in season 1 of Mandalorian as a background droid, it's like, okay, we know that journey is gone and ended up here. They didn't have to, but they did. But in the sense of everything so far that's been going on, it's like it is the world. The fact that we saw Purgle in the waves of the, traveling in hyperspace last week. It was in Rebels where Hera says these things are a nuisance to shippers. They get in the way and they create accidents. And it's like the fact if we never saw any of them ever again, that would have been frustrating for somebody like myself. Just the fact we got this moment where we saw it was a great moment. In this particular case, seeing this mythosaur at the end, I'm sorry, I know we're jumping to the end, but holy crap. This is something I have been waiting for all my life, like literally all my life, because since The Empire Strikes Back came out, there was this idea of what the mythosaur was all about, and it was in there. It's on Boba Fett's freaking armband as a logo, and it always created this mystery as to what this emblem was all about. And to see something physical, and even though we never got a full view of it, it's like I was completely satisfied over that situation. It's 40 something years of waiting.
I think you're
going to be
pretty
more
soon.
satisfied in a few weeks. Because I remember you were throwing it out
spoilers
last night. Like,
yeah,
like, are we going to see more of that? Like, yes.
Yeah.
Outside of any sort of spoiler leaks or anything, like, it's just like, come on. I mean, they're setting it up. It's pretty obvious. I mean,
well, hold on. I hate to interrupt, but I think we have a special guest. The Mandalorian himself, Din Djarin, is here to talk about the episode.
Hello, everybody. It's me, Din Djarin. I'm here to talk about the episode on the Only News channel.
Wow.
Just like him?
That sounded very rehearsed, Din Djarin.
No. Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hey, Johnny.
Sorry to be late, gentlemen. How are we?
Good.
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Exciting evening.
Sorry. Continue the conversation, please.
Well, now that you've busted in, I kind of want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, you can hear my thoughts. So episode 2, I liked it a lot. I think I like it better than the first one, just because, like, I mean, just seeing Mandalore alone is kind of just like pretty big. Yeah. So I particularly enjoyed that. And I just some of the shots were so good. This is a very well shot episode, I thought.
Rachel
didn't
Morrison,
like the Pelly start. Didn't like the Pelly stuff.
What? Come on! I love the Pelly.
I can't. I don't know. I don't hate Pelly, but
I am normally an anti-Pelly guy, but
I have this Funko Pop for a reason now.
She gets better with every appearance.
Every line.
That's true.
Every line was a funny reference. She talked about Boonta Eve weeping like Lerman from Clone Wars season 1. She said roll it. She's like, no chance cubes, like no dice. Like, I was like, this is awesome. Like,
did you?
She just feels so separate sometimes from like the rest of the character. I don't know.
Did you guys catch that when she's talking to the Rhodian, she's going, it's going to take 2 months. Right before she says 2 months, the little pit droid in the back is putting up 2 fingers, waving them. And I'm just blown away how funny that was. It was just
the pit droid humor with Pelly has always been great. Much like, the classic Force Awakens BB-8 thumbs up. We got a pretty great pit droid thumbs up of like, the pit droid's like looking, he looks back, he's like, yeah, the pit droid's one of my favorite bits. I think it's in I want to say Mando 2, but the when they're playing Sabacc, the pit droids, and they're passing cards to one another, that's my favorite pit droid. They're all it's such a goofy game.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming you guys already said it, but this is a very Grogu babble and flip it.
It hasn't been talking about that.
No.
Yeah, this is
true. It's the
Grogu stuff has been kind of crazy. Is that
it was real?
We've had some action.
We haven't even got there yet.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, this to me is
think about
great.
that?
It's great. It's almost he spent like a year or so apart from Din Djarin training with Luke Skywalker.
0 to 2 years.
0 to 2 years, please.
Dude, somewhere in there. John knows. I don't know.
John knows. I don't
No,
know.
I still don't think he knows. I still don't think he knows.
I mean, outside of just the comedic aspect of seeing Grogu like flipping around and everything, like this is really the first episode where Grogu is starting to feel like he has a very strong identity, and like this is now just a character. Besides the point where maybe he felt like more just not a sidekick, or just he was there, but like
he was a plot point originally.
Yeah, he was more of a plot point than a character. Not to dog on Grogu at all. I mean, I think obviously he has his moments, and Book of Boba, obviously, even to take down the Mudhorn and like episode 2, like obviously he's had his moments, but now he just feels very much like such a unique character, and I think
he's his own character.
We see him off on his own for pretty much. I think the first time ever, to the point where he's not like supervised by someone, because it was either Mando or Luke or was Pelly or in the classroom. Like he is on his own there. I mean, I guess he's with R4 or R5 or R4. Yeah.
Well, no, even when he points to the cave.
I know.
We need to go.
Yeah, I love that. He's like, take me here, dude.
Yeah, it's like
I love it.
Take me there. So I don't know. Good for Grogu. I'm glad that he is like seems a little more mature.
Yeah,
it's easy for forget that he may be a baby, but he is 51, 52
years
old. Who has lived, like, he's trained with the Jedi
the age of
for
Grogu.
Decades.
It is the age of Grogu after all.
Like he trained in the temple for decades. Like he knows he's not a fool. Like he repressed all that stuff, and his brain reverted to that of a child. But like I don't know. I love that he is ultimately an old soul.
Grogu kind of speaking too now. kind of sort of speaking.
I know he almost said
He
some
almost.
words.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Pelly says she's like,
Yeah.
"Did he just talk to
First
me?" With those his
word.
first
Yeah.
words.
He's gonna start talking in the way that the Mandalorian talks, isn't he? I think he's
Sure.
gonna have that same kind of dialect of form of the way Din Djarin speaks, which I think would be kind of fun.
Yeah. He's been saying Batu since the very beginning. It's Batu, Batu,
I never thought
thought
of
he
it.
was
That's true. He does
sneezing.
say that. That's true.
Galaxy's Edge, Batu.
That's just an ad.
Yeah, it's an ad.
That is such an ad.
He says
Oh, yeah.
Batu. I mean,
I know.
he
It's
says
funny.
it.
I never
funny.
connected that.
It's a little more like
That's
Batu,
funny.
but
Subliminal advertising.
yeah.
Go to Batu.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
but it was like a Grogu sort of like breakaway app. I mean, like Mando's, sort of gets messed up this episode. I mean, he does take out
He
the.
takes a back seat for sure.
Yeah.
I know that Bo-Katan says the name of these troll guys, and now I'm forgetting it. It's
Alamites.
like it starts with an
Totally
A.
missed
It's
it.
Alamite.
Alamites.
If you say
Alamites.
so.
I love the design of them. Very cool. looking.
Yeah. Well, they are very reminiscent of the Jules Verne. Is it no Jules H.G. Wells' Time Machine?
Yeah.
The original film that
yeah.
came out in the 50s.
Yeah.
You actually see a creature very similar to that, and that's the evolution of mankind. I think is the idea of what they look like. And I like they
Good
based it
creature
off
so
of that.
far. We got Bog Monster last week.
Mm-hmm.
Got these guys this week.
Yeah.
Swamp
Good,
Thing
good
last
creature.
week,
And,
too.
and I assume you guys already talked about it, but I loved the spider guy. Like,
haven't
Oh,
gotten
no,
off that
no,
yet.
no,
We
no,
haven't
no,
gotten-
no,
You
no,
came
10
in
minutes
really.
in.
Yeah, we were
God,
like,
it's beautiful.
4 minutes
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were just giving our episode thoughts when you
We have
came
not
in.
okay.
gotten. Yeah. So take it away. You want to talk
you've
about?
been going. Okay. I don't know what you guys talked about already. Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
Go ahead.
Go
you
for
want
it.
to
Oh,
talk
you want to
about
talk
it?
about him? Oh yeah.
You brought him
I
up.
I loved his design. I like how he had he was one of those what are those like shell things, and you can take one out and they split.
Yeah, the
Keep going and going.
Russian baby
Russian
dolls.
nesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but in Star Wars, he had
Yeah.
3 different. He kept,
Yeah, I mean, he was just like a little eye.
little guy at the end. He had the big
Yeah.
tank, then the
Meeber.
original Grievous skeleton body, and a little Meeber eye at the end. Very very cool. I don't know, just like great design. Season 3.
Phil Tippett.
What was that?
It was Phil Tippett. Phil Tippett.
Is it Phil Tippett or is it a CGI creature? It was because definitely IG-11 was stop motion last week when we saw him crawling across the ground. But I feel like this
I
might have
think he
been
was
CG.
No, I think he was stop motion.
Well, so I
There-
don't know.
This
All I know
creature
is
was?
that Phil Tippett
I think some of it.
is in the credits again. And
Okay, all right. Maybe he did do some
he's,
stuff.
he's,
then.
he's credited for something, and I know some
Okay.
of those
Something.
some
It
of those
could-
shots, like the one
The
when
droid,
Yeah, there
the,
was
the
some-
robot
when the
droid. is probably
droid,
what
yeah,
it
when the droid is
Yeah,
moving,
I
like
think
that,
it was that.
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
looked.
Yeah.
It's specifically the one when it's it's got Din in, but it's not into the layer yet, and it looks
Yeah.
almost like a miniature, like
Yeah.
Mhm.
crawling around a little bit. Like I think
Yeah.
I could believe that was
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
he's in the credits, so he did something. But
He did
either way,
something.
it's really cool that Phil Tippett is back.
Oh, yeah.
in Star
Absolutely.
Wars working on. it.
God, warms my heart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he deserves it. He
I,
deserves more than anyone.
yeah,
Love the design of that guy. Very cool.
yeah.
Very cool. Junkyard.
He's
I'm
scary.
also just really interested about the creatures who are living in Mandalore now. Like,
Well,
have they been here the whole time? Kind
Well,
of.
the
thing?
Bo-Katan in the
no,
episode
Bo-Katan
says
that they're from.
Alamites were been living there the whole time. They
Yeah,
were just
those
in
guys.
the-
Well, yeah,
There's
but
other-
not
there's
on
other little things
Mandalore.
running
She
around.
says that they used to live
Yeah.
outside the Mandalorian
Yeah.
cities, out in
Done.
the wastes.
Yeah, like
Just-
out in the wastes.
So
Yeah.
it seems as though since the destruction, they've sort of centralized back into the area they used to stay away from.
Mhm.
And she also says, they put this line in for a reason. She's like, wonder what else survived.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Well, some
creatures on Mandalore.
something I didn't really visually process until
Hello.
more recently
Hey, Anchorman.
is that obviously Mandalore, through its wars with the Jedi in the past and its wars with itself, had
Mm.
turned its entire surface into sand. Essentially, it was just white sand.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
when the Empire would drop bombs on it, obviously the sand would superheat and turn to glass, and that's what that is.
Yeah.
Like I didn't just the visual
Right.
storytelling of all of that is so great that this place was already it was just flat sand from nothing, and then
Yeah.
more
Right.
destruction raining on it like creates these crystalline
Wow,
structures.
yeah.
It's just so
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, so,
So-
Levi, I've got to ask this question because you're probably the one who's going to have the most knowledge.
Sure.
When did the Empire actually bombard Mandalore in this particular scene? Because we do see it
Yeah.
right through to we don't see it in Rebels,
No.
but we do see it up to the siege of
So-
Mandalore. So I assume it has to be early stages.
At
of,
so at the end of the current timeline we have
Mhm.
is so at the end of Clone Wars, the Republic is occupying Mandalore. Bo-Katan is technically in charge, but obviously Order 66 happens. So then de facto, the Empire is now occupying Mandalore.
Right.
There's a form of resistance movement. It doesn't go well. Then this, like, Gar Saxon is appointed governor. Mandalore is technically it's occupied by the Empire. It's an imperial system. Then there are those 17, there's years up to Rebels where Sabine's in the academy. Mandalorians are still fighting back. Her dad is revolting through different ways, but Mandalore still exists as a place. Then you have what we see in Rebels, where it finally culminates. Bo-Katan gets the Darksaber back. Sabine gives it to her, and she tries to. And this is now a couple years before A New Hope, and they're going to go lead a revolt against the Empire. Then it's assumed between those 2 years, between the end of season 4 and the beginning of A New Hope, that is when the purge happens. Because
Gotcha. That's what I figured it was.
Yeah, because Bo-Katan, because they're not in the original trilogy, right? Mandalorians are underground for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, Bo-Katan, she gets the saber, and that's why the armorer is like, Bo-Katan got gifted the saber, but she's a cautionary tale because right after that, our planet got destroyed. So yeah, that it pretty much is it's in the gap between Rebels and the original trilogy starting is when the purge is assumed to have happened.
And I would even guess earlier, considering that the Din has never been to Mandalore.
Yeah.
We find out, meaning that it was probably destroyed before he was born. Or
No, because he said he lived on.
He was maybe like
Concordia.
8 or 9 maybe in that flashback when he's first becomes a Found One.
Well, no, because that's during the Clone Wars, and Mandalore exists for a long. Up exists 2 Rebels, and the reason Din hasn't been to Mandalore and Bo-Katan calls the Children of the Watch out on this is the piece that I think you're missing, Ben, is we don't know when the Children of the Watch actually break away from the Death Watch, and I think that probably happens right around the end of the Clone Wars because Bo says, "When were your people then? You weren't helping us with the revolution." Because I think when Satine, I think honestly the Children of the Watch broke away as soon as like Satine won the Civil War, like the pacifists won. They were like, absolutely not. We're out of here. And as we know with Pre Vizsla, he was on Concordia, and that's where I imagine the sub faction of the Children of the Watch were. And so when the Death Watch takes Din and they break apart, that's where Din ends up. And they would never want to go back to Mandalore because at that point it's under Imperial control.
Yeah.
I think also like the Children of the Watch is like a faction of Maul's Mandos, because I mean she's the only Mando with orange helmet, and the last time we saw that was Gar. What's the other one? They were the only two horns that were named that like she's got to be a Maul. And
there has been a theory that armor is a cast.
I don't think she is.
No. At this point, could be.
I think she is the Mando.
A Mandalorian.
Yeah, Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Either way, so yeah, the purge happens after Rebels,
right?
But before A New
Hope. That's where I figured it was. Yeah,
Night of 1,000 Tears.
Yeah,
very very crystal knocked of them.
Not great.
True.
Yeah, Mandalore is through a lot, to say the least.
So with the one thing that didn't necessarily work as well for me, it was more questions. Is Din was able to get down to the planet so easily with a droid and do an atmospheric, check to see the oxygen. Why hasn't anyone else been down there? Even on the element of like, you know what, I'm going to screw what everyone else is saying. I'm going down to check it out myself anyway. Bo-Katan seems to be the only one who kind of.
I mean, I just
had that knowledge.
I don't think anyone has felt brave enough. I mean, it's propaganda.
Propaganda for one.
I think the implication
but
is
there's
also
always
that
a certain amount of people who are going to say
people did go and that creature killed them.
Yeah,
because that creature's den is filled with tons of Mandalorian helmets. Like I think.
Oh, good point.
I think that there were probably a few Mandos who did go.
I'm sure some people have, but I think the overwhelming answer is that the propaganda is working. I mean, people genuinely believe that Mandalore is. You can't go there.
Boba the Empire turned it to glass.
I know, and they actually turned it to glass.
But when did Boba ever last go to Mandalore? He never has. It's like
I know,
no, but he was alive.
Yeah,
Boba was a bounty hunter during when the purge happened.
Right.
That was galactic news, I imagine. This is pre-Alderaan, so this is at that point in time, the Mandalorian purge was probably like that's the Mandalorians try to revolt. Don't mess with the Empire. They literally
It was on the Palpatine podcast.
But there's
Yeah.
always going to be
Before going to
a
Mandalore.
small faction of people that are going to say screw the.
When I think some of them did. I think that's Bo.
That was Bo, yeah. But she did.
Mhm.
She was aware that it was.
Because she
clear
knew.
down
Yeah,
there.
she knew.
Right.
It was just also for them, for the
Yeah.
ones who could go back, they had no
Yeah.
reason to. The reason
Yeah,
why
good point.
Din is going
Yeah.
back is for the religious aspect of it, and the Children of the Watch are
Yeah.
they're more, they think it is actually cursed. So
Right.
because
Yeah.
maybe some of the people who were down in that creature's cave were Children of the Watch who went down, never came back, right?
Yeah,
If
that
that
makes
happens,
sense too.
there's helmets
Yeah.
down there.
Yeah.
And so if that happens, I bet the armor, whoever's
Yeah.
in charge of officially of the sect, is like, no,
Yeah.
don't go there. Like that's messed
Yeah.
up. And they also
Yeah.
think that the waters are destroyed. Like they think the
Mm.
whole, but it's not really. I think it's a mix of a lot of things. Because to Ben's
Yeah.
point and to Boba Fett's point, they did turn it to glass. The place is
It-
not like it's done.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah. But it is one faction not talking to the other factions, and it goes back to what
Yeah.
Mandalorian's been about for 1,000 years. It's
Yeah.
like they've been warring, feuding,
And other people,
Yeah.
have been going to Mandalore because that's how
Yeah.
Din got that, that chunk of rock from the first
Mhm.
episode. He's like,
Yes.
there are Jawas and traders going there
Right.
and taking.
Oh
stuff.
yeah, totally. Yeah,
So it's just
Yeah.
like the Mandalorians are, they're superstitious. They're superstitious.
makes sense.
But
Yeah,
I
I
love
mean, to your point, in terms of like plot hole kind of stuff, I do think it was a bit silly how like to have R5 just go like I don't know, like 30.
It was quick, and
It was like 30
and the
feet in
IG
one
droid
direction.
would not have been able to do that
Yeah, I-
anyway. So
Well, yeah, it's just like I don't
think-
understand. If,
I think
if
he
Din-
would have wanted the IG-11 because IG-11 can fight for himself. Just in
Yeah,
case
no,
there was
that makes
something
sense
out
to
there.
me. It was just the fact that like the astromech just went like 40 feet, and then it
Mhm.
was like then Din was like, okay,
Yeah,
I'll just
shit.
go now. It's like why did
Shit.
you need him
yeah,
to make
yeah,
like,
exactly.
you were gonna go out there
I
with
know.
your pressure.
Yeah.
I know we needed
I
the
totally-
the readings of the
Yeah,
atmosphere.
he wanted R4 specific or R5 to specifically go into the cave. He wanted
Yeah,
to get the reading.
it's just it just even just the way it worked like, visually, where it was just like around the corner of like
I
the
know.
little
I
glass
know.
shard.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little goofy. Minor.
It was a little goofy, but
Minor-
it was fine too at the same time. I mean, it is fun to see that R5 is
I am not
R4 is
sure.
getting
Mandalorian is.
R4 is getting a bit of recognition after all these years.
Yeah,
It's
rebellion.
a Mandalorian is a guy. He's in a car called a DeLorean, actually, and they go back in
Oh,
A
time.
Mandalorian.
It's
He's
funny
a
because
man
he's-
in a DeLorean.
There you
Doc
go.
Brown's going to be in this show. So
At some point,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, I think
I can't wait for that.
My theory
Can't
is
wait
that
for
he's playing Bo-Katan's dad.
Yeah,
'Cause I
he's
think
definitely-
okay.
because
makes sense.
we know Christopher Lloyd is cast, and the
Yeah.
way that they talked about Bo's dad in this episode, I don't know. It could just be.
Hmm.
I might.
That would be
reading too
crazy
much.
casting.
makes sense.
yeah,
I might
I
be-
mean, no,
he's
no, no.
dead.
I've always thought he was
he's
going to be
alive.
a
He's-
officer or something because he kind of gives that tone of.
It's
being
too old. I
a
think
good
he's too old.
No, he's
to,
too- he's
in
too
this-
old.
That's what I think.
maybe. Yeah,
And too
good point.
goofy to be an Imperial officer.
Fair
It's
enough.
just I don't know. It's just the way they talked about him.
Excellent
And,
line. Yeah.
Well, the way he talked
but,
about
makes
it.
I mean, he's either going to show up in a flashback. Like the character of Bo-Katan's dad is going to be relevant in some way or another. They wouldn't just throw it out there in the way they
Yeah.
did. So
If Satine shows up, if a young Satine, oh, I'm
Yeah.
freaking out.
Young Satine flashback.
Oh,
Maybe.
That'd be
yeah,
cool.
with Bo, you just
Yeah,
go,
I mean,
"Yeah,
I
this
don't
is
know.
Satine
I
right
think-
there, and you're like,
we
ah,
will
yeah.
see some Clone Wars flashbacks. Johnny
Yeah.
keeps thinking we're going to see pre-Vizsla. I'm not subscribing to that.
It's more of a hope. It's not. It's more of a hope.
No! Don't say that. You
Dude, if,
Yeah.
It is.
you were all hoping. You were like, no, we're going to see him.
if
I
we
think
see,
there's a chance. I do.
if we see him, he
wasn't
better
like
be in
That'd
that.
be
awesome.
cool.
Definitely.
That'd be
He
cool.
better
I would
better
love
have
to.
that awesome helmet that he had in
Yeah.
like the later seasons.
Yeah,
Season
dude.
four.
Like
In
the
Rebels?
spikes,
Yeah, the season 4
So
was.
sick.
the season
Yeah.
4 helmet, the best
I'd
helmet.
love to see that.
I want it to be John Favreau doing the voice and whoever actor they find.
No.
like
Why
the
not?
lip-
It's
the
him.
lips don't match up.
I mean,
Oh,
The
for
voice.
it is him, isn't it? Oh yeah, this is
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yes.
Yeah,
oh,
he's the
shit.
voice
Oh
of
yeah. Oh
He's
yeah.
the
I
voice
forgot.
of Pre-Vizsla.
Maybe
I mean,
that's why
that's how
they
he knows
switched out the
Dave.
voice of. That's
I
how.
know.
The, yeah.
That's why I hope that too.
That's it.
They'll have
That's
to de-age him and de-size
That's
him.
it.
DHD just changed his whole face.
Size just change his whole
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, it's not-
Switch it
there's,
in a
no,
little
there's
bit.
no D anything.
Yeah.
It's just it's a completely different man.
D.
There's nothing
Yeah.
to D.
I know.
DD.
It's yeah.
Oh no, you got a D, dude.
I don't know. This, yeah, I love the what we've got going on though. Just for the archetypes, I think the back half of this episode is you have your Mandalorian knight, this like religious knight, and then your princess, like the Mandalorian warrior princess. It's like, it's just so cool. And they're walking through the streets, and I looked back in Clone Wars. I was curious, and you can actually see, it's so cool. You can see the entrance of the mines in Clone Wars as well. It's modeled into they made sure that Sundari looked exactly as it did, and it's so cool.
No, it's we including the below sections from
Johnny.
From
can you mute?
Especially the lower levels from Siege of Mandalore as well. With all the
I know with the
so good.
We've sort of skirted around it, but I mean we saw it like full on Sundari in this episode, and I always sort of wondered how they'd adapt it to live action because just the look of it in the Clone Wars is so like that just couldn't exist at all, with like upside down buildings and everything. But
I always love the design of the animation stuff. I mean,
it's just amazing.
Awesome.
It's just one of those things. Just like how is that going to translate?
I think it translates.
It looks great. I was hoping as watching the episode and they go down into the sewer section, I wanted to see a 332nd helmet.
As did I. Yeah, some clone armor.
That felt like it would have just been a very
huge. I wish we saw that.
That would have felt like a very easy Dave, like just throw that helmet in there real quick. It would have been there, right? Like, so a little upset. Even just a clone helmet, it didn't even need to be a 332nd.
I mean, it would have been 20 years.
Later,
30.
They would.
How often are people going
later.
down into those sewers?
So,
I
mean, that thing's living in there, so
true.
But he left the Mando helmet. I don't see why he wouldn't.
Well, that was a trap, though.
Yeah, that was.
It's true.
Yeah. That whole thing, man.
That was so cool.
So the thing was like sucking his blood, right?
Yeah, I think that's how
it was draining the fluids of his body to keep its
Mad Max Fury Road vibe, dude.
And that poor little like
getting the blood bag,
the pump droid, like it had a pump droid that just like its life was just pumping. It felt so.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that though. There's a couple shots here where that thing takes the Darksaber from Din, throws it to the ground. When Bo-Katan shows up, I think that thing technically defeated Din.
Yeah.
She picks it up, man. She starts using it. And
I did not subscribe to this.
And I don't.
She defeats it.
And she defeats it.
This thing defeated. This thing
defeated Din.
This thing defeated Din.
We're getting into like Harry Potter, like Elrond. Just
Ben, hear me out.
Just put on your tinfoil hat.
Hear me out.
It's such
in
conspiracy
the end,
theory.
when they're sitting around the campfire and they have a great conversation, they're talking about Pog Stew. The way the camera holds on Din picking it back up, the Darksaber, and putting it on, like it doesn't feel right. They're like, oh, that's not his anymore. Like it's hers. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let me just throw this back at you. The other day, I don't remember if this was recorded or live or not, but we were talking about whether or not the IG-11 seeing Din counted as being a
yes. I said no, it's not.
As a in fact, I'll agree with you there. So if that's your stance, I don't see why this droid. I mean, I know it might have some sort of sentience to it. It might have been a cyborg.
I think it's because it's a cyborg because it was alive.
I don't.
Yeah, that's what I think. It was both.
I don't count this
must
thing
have
as Mandalorians being like, okay, this thing could wield the Darksaber. Like
but it took it from him. I mean, there was that whole shot where it takes it and then throws it on the it took it.
I think that was more of just a visual setup. So like it made sense later on when Bo-Katan shot.
I guess we'll find out next week because I'm sure there's going to be a hefty conversation going on here. I'm hoping
to that point, if you are right, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. If
you think it's stupid?
If Bo is like, you don't have the Darksaber anymore,
this
like random cyborg took it from you, and like,
well, I don't think it's Bo's going to be that way. I think Din's going to be like, oh yeah, I don't like this isn't mine.
No.
Yeah.
I can see him trying to use that as an excuse, and Bo being like, "No,
no." I think yes. I mean, if Moff Gideon beat Bo-Katan for it, and Moff Gideon got beat, but no, the way it's been established within the context of the show so far, if you lose with it, and it takes it off, like I don't know. To me, I don't think it's stupid at all.
He like stepped into like a trap, Like,
it
wasn't even like.
Yeah, but he's a Mandalorian. Like you're not supposed to. He got bested.
Yeah.
I don't know, and then you're just getting
and it de-armed him of the actual
weapons.
This
whole level of like gray area where you could like I don't know. What if you like what if Din stepped into like an Ewok trap on Endor? Caught up in the net, and Widget comes and snags the Darksaber from him.
Well, if Ewoks killed him, then yeah.
They didn't kill Din.
No, but
hold on. My thought process.
I see what you're saying, but
yeah. My thought process has been originally I was thinking we're going into this season that Bo-Katan is going to be at odds with Din Djarin throughout the whole season because of this Darksaber. And the one thing that never occurred to me is, what if they don't? What if he now can pass it on to her and they actually become friendship rather than enemies?
Yeah, that's good.
And how does this take the remaining of the season forward? Because I was expecting betrayal and mistrust, and it doesn't feel like it's about to go that direction. I don't know. And I'm excited to where this is all going.
I was with you on that for a while too. I thought that Bo is gonna be more of an antagonist, but I no longer.
I
see
think that was what
Bo
the
in that
marketing was
direction.
telling you.
Yeah, but I think just we'll see
Even
them
before the
work
marketing,
together.
I always felt like just there to be this vibe of she's
Well, that's fair. I mean,
all
who
of
she
it
was
matters
from the
just
Clone
about it.
Wars.
All of it
She's going to be
ends-
determined.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like
And-
glaring at Din. Like,
Yeah,
obviously,
I-
there's bad blood up on the.
I feel like
Imperial
we're going to get an answer next week about who is going to be passed on. I feel like this conversation feels like it should be something that comes up next week.
I think
don't
it
know.
will. And briefly, before we start talking about Bad Batch, because we're at a pretty good point here,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
do
Bad
want
Batch, too.
I do want to open up the conversation too. So yeah, now they've seen the Mythosaur.
Mhm.
It seems they both.
She
think
has
it's-
seen the
Got it.
Mythosaur.
She's
Got
seen
it.
it.
She had a
Yeah.
religious experience right there.
I don't know. Well, something. Sure. I don't know if we'll
Yeah.
go that far, but yes, the
Mhm.
point is they've seen it. I think now the next thing is, because in my opinion, Bo-Katan has the saber, and armed with this information of the Mythosaur, I think the next mission now, what they're going to do is they're going to go try and unite all the tribes.
Yeah.
Bo-Katan has already
Yeah.
talked about how her,
Yeah.
her faction is off doing its own thing, but
Mhm.
Yep.
she's seen a
Loved that
Mythosaur.
scene though when
the-
she had it.
Yeah.
The
Oh.
cult, the
Sounds good.
the children of the Watch are going to come back because if they see the Mythosaur, they got to go tame that thing.
Mhm.
That heralds the new age of Mandalore.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to work. Our plot now for Din and Bo is going to be traveling around the galaxy, uniting all these different factions.
Yeah.
What do you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen pictures. We've seen
think
in
that
the
as well.
trailers of Din with other Mandos.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is possible that.
Yeah, we
I
know.
think
We know he goes back to a group at some point from there.
Yeah.
So
Characters, like you said,
I've
yeah.
got this really gnawing question because we've seen it in the trailers. We've got all these Mandos dropping out and kind of like paragliding down over the top of Navarro. It seems.
Oh, that's because
What
the
are they
pirates are gonna be
doing there?
attacking it. The pirates are.
Yeah.
I think the
attacking it.
pirates are
Oh,
going.
the
pirates are
pirates.
attacking.
Okay. all
I
right,
think.
okay.
I think we'll probably get a scene of like
Okay.
maybe Din back at the Children of the Watch, which I don't want him to
Okay.
go back, but he's probably going to go back.
Well,
He's
for
gonna be
sure
like,
he is.
hey, I swam
He
in
took
the
a
water.
big bath, Chad. He took a bath.
I took a
Oh,
bath
yeah.
and
He took
the
a
thing
bath.
saw a mythosaur. It's
He's all good
wild
now.
down
He's
there.
all good.
Yeah. So the Mythosaur didn't drag him down. He fell in a hole that was just an open crevice, I am assuming, and went straight down and dropped because he
This
didn't have
has
his
been
backpack on. He didn't have all of his stuff.
I mean,
And
This has
for
been a
something
debate.
that-
This has been a debate amongst us since we all saw the episode. It's of my opinion that
Yeah.
initially that he just stepped off the edge, and because he's wearing,
Yeah, I
vest
think
armor-
it's a deep pool. He didn't
He
expect
just
to
sank.
be
That's
one.
it.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
sank. That's a.
But-
and because we saw him take off his backpack and jetpack and everything, we know he went
yeah,
in
yeah. Because why would he have
undefended.
that?
I know, but when you look at it though, like you can
Well-
actually see that the stairs keep going. It's like something. It looks like something pulled him down.
Yeah.
I think
I
it
think
might.
something pulled him down as well. I think.
Oh, I see. I think it maybe was like the water. You know.
Oh,
like
just
the
he's
tide
heavy
of
and
the-
he's.
A down
That's what I'm
draft.
saying. Yeah, like a draft.
Yeah.
And like maybe the
Yeah.
Mythosaur
A down-
moved
down
in there
suck.
and it sucked him down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because
Or
the
like they
Mythosaur
said,
is
pulled
huge.
him
The
down.
Mythosaur is like bigger than a
It's-
crate.
yeah,
carrier.
it's-
There's no way. There's no way
If
it
it
reached
moves
up and
in
was
the
like,
water this way, it's gonna
Yeah,
pull a suction
yeah.
funnel. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, I think we just he walked in.
Yeah.
I decided.
Yeah.
Final decision.
Final decision. Okay.
Final decision.
Yeah.
Heard it here first.
Or he just slipped. He just slipped. The stairs are wet. Stairs are a little slippery.
Yeah, no, I think he
Oh,
just
so
sunk.
you just-
I just think he just.
Wow, what an embarrassing way to go. Drowned in the waters of Mandalore. because
So we
he
didn't
slipped
see
off the
anything
step.
attached to him either. Like it was
No.
just.
I know, I
because
think
there was a
he's
couple
just-
wide shots like seconds
Yeah.
later. So
Yeah.
He got down there.
great moment, and I'm very excited to see what
Oh, yeah.
episode 3 does with
Best
with
guy
the
drops.
Mythosaur there.
Yeah, I'm excited with the series. I was not expecting to go to the Mines of Mandalore like episode
So
2.
sick. Yeah.
Like I was
me
like,
neither.
oh, that's like episode 4 or 5 thing. That's
yeah,
mid-season thing.
Same thing.
It's
Yeah.
like, all right, now everything's wide open. It's like now what's next?
yeah.
Well, at the
Lost.
at the 40-minute mark here, I think I want to
Switch to Bad Batch?
Let's switch to Bad Batch out.
Well, I mean, is there anything else? I mean,
Obviously,
Yeah,
if you want, if there's anything else you guys want to say about
Yeah.
Mandalorian, go ahead. But I think the Outpost deserves
it
its
covered
credit.
it.
So this,
it
love the app. I don't know.
so to set it up a
overall,
little
love
bit, this
Director. Has she
Well,
directed something before? Was it she?
we're talking about Rachel Morrison.
Rachel Morrison,
of
yes.
Mandalorian season.
Yeah.
So she's been a cinematographer for a long time. She worked with Rick Famuyiwa on
Yeah.
Dope, and then was also the cinematographer of Black Panther.
Okay.
Off the
Yeah.
top of my head.
Okay.
And she worked.
She
with
did an amazing job. As
And this-
direction.
And-
Did some of the shots in this episode specifically,
Yeah.
like the ones of the wides of like Mandalorian, like the Rick Mandalorian,
Yeah.
so good, so good,
And
so good.
and whoever does the reviews for IGN needs to turn on their TV screen.
Yeah, IGN gave this episode a 5, which is
A 5, they did.
I don't.
yeah.
I don't.
Don't listen to
I
IGN
don't-
reviews. Come
I
on.
don't read. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
No,
read
it's very
Yeah,
silly
you-
though, because IGN is historically like,
That
oh,
is
they give
silly.
everything a good review, and then
Yeah,
they
they
give
usually
this
do.
really good episode.
Why?
Of
What was the
5 out of nowhere.
point?
They
What
said it
were
was
the
too
points?
dark.
It was too dark. It's
Too
like, turn
dark,
up your
like
fucking-
visually, or like
I,
as a
I will
thematic?
say it was a dark episode. I did have
It
to
was
turn
a
the
dark
brightness
episode. I watched it
up
on this
my-
computer screen
I
right
did
here, and I saw everything clearly. I was like,
I saw
"You're
everything
not
clearly."
I had to
here."
turn my brightness up a few notches.
Turn
on
your
my TV.
brightness up.
I did on my TV. Yeah.
I mean, not to the point where it's like, oh, this is. I don't know.
Yeah.
People said the same thing about one of the House of Dragons episodes. Like I don't mind it, but
it wasn't that bad.
I think, yeah, I don't know. It was pretty dark at times. I think all the stuff with the cyborg, it was all like it's hard. It was sort of hard to see what was going
And
on.
I mean, everything in the cave, yeah, it makes
I don't
sense, you know.
It's a cave.
And not that it would warrant a 5 out of 10 because of that,
That's insane.
but to the point, too dark. Like, I don't know, it was a dark episode.
Again, I don't trust IGN.
If that's
reviews. I
true,
think half of them are
then we're
crap.
gonna disregard everything they
myself.
said.
IGN
That-
is
it is
crazy
true.
anyway. So,
All right,
but
Bad
Bad
Batch.
Batch.
so, yes,
Bad Batch time. Oh
So to set
boy.
up this episode is like, it's the dream
Some of the-
team of the
some of the
creative
best.
talent behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
working on this episode is Nathaniel Villanueva, who is a longtime Clone Wars guy, Brad Rao, who's the head director, and written by Jennifer Corbett, who's the head writer, and then story edited by Matt Minkovitz, who is one of the main story editors of Clone Wars. So this is like,
Yeah.
this
This
is
is the
this
dream
is,
team.
This is
The
the
key
dream
team.
team.
And they
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
possibly one of the best episodes of.
This is like when this is the equivalent of when
Animated Star Wars ever.
Filoni would write and George would write and Filoni would direct, like the Mortis arc or something
Yeah.
like that. Like this is
Yeah.
that level of the creative energy behind the scenes is on full force here. And oh my god, did it pay off? So the Outpost, Crosshair, wow. Did anyone here cry?
Oh,
Yeah,
Pretty
it was
close.
emotionally charged. It was.
I think we all were.
It wrecked me, man. Made me
Dude.
sad. Like put me in like in a not a bad mood, but like I
Yeah,
don't know,
it's
it's a
sad
sad,
mood.
a sad mood. It's,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like Mayday, like in such a short amount of time, became one of my favorite clones ever.
Dope armor.
Yeah.
Oh my
One,
god.
you know,
Love
like
the armor.
maybe even go as far as top 5 clone. I don't know.
Easily. I think
like,
he's
visually,
easily
I'd
top
agree,
five
yeah.
clone.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just like I just love his character. I mean, because
Yeah.
and I'm really interested to see how far if he executed Order 66 or anything, because it all comes back. He uses the word.
Probably.
Like, he goes, "We
Yeah.
were good soldiers. We followed orders." And like,
Yeah.
and where did it get us?
I was gonna
Yeah.
ask, did they ever say if there were any Jedi on that planet when they were there?
No.
I don't think so.
Well, they were also they were
That was
they
an
weren't
that
on
was an
planet.
assignment way after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was way
Yeah.
after.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
got
We don't know anything about like who Mayday ran with. I mean, he doesn't really talk about his squad. He asks
yeah.
Crosshair,
Yeah.
What squad do you run with and everything, but Mayday
Yeah.
doesn't really give his backstory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Women-
but I love the armor. Just so many
Yeah.
good clone stuff. So much good clone stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I
This
mean,
is like
jump-
I think this was better than the Cody yet. I think I like this
Oh,
one.
I
better.
think it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both episodes
Co-
are good. I know-
Cody one is awesome, but this one I
Yeah.
think is better.
I
Mayday.
appreciate that he's had Crosshair's had some of the best ones, because I think
Yeah.
if he was
Yeah.
I understand
he's the more compelling character.
yeah, I
story-wise.
understand also I understand the want to like see what he's up to throughout the season, but if we saw what he was up to like last week, this episode probably wouldn't have hit as hard,
Yeah.
maybe it would have, but like not the Crosshair stuff. You gotta kind of sit with this guy. He's
Yeah.
he is part of the Bad Batch, but when he shows up, especially in this season, like his 2 episodes are like easily the best 2 episodes in this of the season.
Yeah,
so
I
far.
agree. I totally agree.
Personally, I think I put the Clone Conspiracy episodes above Solitary Clone.
Are you picking that individually, or are you picking that as that arc?
I'm picking it as an arc.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I
Probably
would
one of the
agree.
best single. I think one of the best single eps of any animated stuff.
Yeah.
I think, but
Yeah,
It is definitely my favorite episode of the Bad Batch thus far.
Yeah. It's definitely. yeah. It's
you
it
know,
hit these marks. I mean, more than anything, just I mean, again, skipping to the end a little bit, but just
go
the
ahead.
moment that Crosshair decides that he's going to pick up Mayday
Mayday,
and
yeah.
carry him back. I mean, come on, that's pure.
Well, the whole
he
last
carries
10
him
minutes-
the entire way
yeah,
back just
yeah.
from
The whole
the
way.
eye.
Yeah,
The
when he said
entire-
he wouldn't, you know,
Yeah, I
it's
know.
like, yeah,
The
it's
entire
just-
last 10 minutes
it's-
are absolutely breathtaking because
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
you know, they're on this desolate world and the clones. It's all allegory for how the clones place right now in the galaxy,
Sure,
and the way
yeah.
the vulture, the vultures that keep circling, like it's coming for all clones. Like their time is up. That vulture is for
Yeah.
all of them,
Yeah.
and to see that shot of Crosshair looking up. And it's like and then it cuts back down to the wide shot, and you see the shadow just circling.
The shadow, yeah.
And it's like, oh my god, like it's just wow.
But it's also
it's
kind of on
horrible.
a
It's
deeper level though. It's Crosshair's predator nature instinct of basically making an attack at a last ditch attack, and when he takes out
Nolan,
what was
yeah.
the name?
Lieutenant
Lieutenant Nolan, which I was kind of expecting had to go that way, but it was just so real. There was,
Impactful.
you know,
I mean, like
it
Levi
was
said, the
very
shots
powerful, very
like
powerful.
completely told a story.
Yeah.
I mean, so Crosshair, I mean, throughout season 1 and 2, has had so many chances to sort of like so many of these moments where he makes a decision to stick with the Empire or to sort of break away. And so many times has he chosen to stick the Empire. And I think we finally see his breaking point and what it took to get him to that point of like just over and over and over again, just getting like demeaned by the Empire. And I think his conversations with Rampart and Solitary Clone definitely were like a big part of that. And just he's like, you mean nothing to us. And I mean, he knows that finally he's just not valued at all. And I think seeing Mayday, I think he sees himself.
And the fact, if I can cut in, the fact that it is specifically Mayday, a reg, because when we meet Crosshair in season 7,
he hates
this
Regs.
is the guy who looks down upon, like he thinks they're lesser.
He has
and
that
over-
whole beef with Rex.
Yeah.
And over the time throughout the series, even when he's in the Empire, he's looking down on Regs. He's still, as he starts, in Aftermath, when he is Imperial Crosshair, he's leading the elite squad. He's still above. And over time, the way he has been degraded and degraded and degraded. And you mentioned Solitary Clone, when he's eating alone and the Regs are like, they move away from him. And now he's at this point. He's at this point where he is so he's been so psychologically broken from the way he was, because I think a lot of his attitude wasn't necessarily the best before.
Right.
But that he's finding kinship with this reg. He's not thinking about it at all. And he's willing to sacrifice his life for this guy.
Yeah.
And it's what Omega gave him that chance at the end of season 1. Omega is constantly thinking about Crosshair and like the empathy of the batch, and he is just it's taken him a long time to get to that point. But the fact that it's with I don't know, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. You can only really talk about it so much, because so much of this episode is done just visually, and it's
The most tragic piece of that is like it's almost too late, for him to like have that appreciation for Regs.
because the war's over, right? I mean, there is no more,
Or it's over, and they're getting pushed out.
shipped out. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're at this
They're
low
used-
point. They're dying
used
to get equipment for the
materials,
replacements.
used equipment.
In a parallel, it's like it deals with the vets coming out of the walls and stuff here. On Earth, there's that whole cross connection, and that's why it humanizes so well our connection and understanding of what the Crosshair's character is going through, and they do a beautifully powerful story that connects with vets,
particularly Vietnam War vets.
War,
and, like that's obviously been throughout popular culture and
right
American society. Like that is something that in the cultural consciousness has put itself out in art. And Star Wars is always at its best when it's tapping into those same themes that George was in the 70s and 80s. You can only just go watch this episode. I can only say it so many times. It is every part of it. Just
It sucks, because I would text AJ this morning after he was done watching it, and I was like, it kind of sucks though. Like probably two of the best episodes
And overshadowed by Mando.
It's like people are gonna sleep on these two episodes, especially this one, where it's like you're like, this is hands down one of the best episodes of Star Wars in general.
Yeah, they need to
think
change
Star
this
Wars TV.
animation and live action on the same
Yeah.
night. This is the reason why, because the animation has got just as powerful stories as the live action
think-
stuff. And they need to understand that.
I think Bad Batch, just in general, is kind of being slept on. I think
Hmm.
it's at. I honestly, I think it's almost at the exact
It's
same
not
point.
this episode, yeah.
I think it's almost at the
Yeah.
exact same point that Rebels was in its
Yeah.
second
Yeah.
season. Because I'm
Yeah.
someone who watched Rebels sort of in and out sparingly. Like it wasn't like Clone Wars for me.
You were mad at Rebels because it
Yeah,
replaced Clone Wars.
I was mad at Rebels because it replaced Clone Wars, and I didn't give the show.
Same
a
here,
full
yeah. I
watch
was
through.
Oh,
as well.
I love
And,
the ramping up of Rebels, but
I mean,
I'm
Bad
just
Batch has had it. Bad Batch has had his ups and downs.
I'm just
over
saying,
this
even
start-
for
last
even
season,
for
I
me,
think.
the mega fan, there was a point in time when I was so like dejected with animation that I was like, so I can see someone who watched
Wow.
like maybe the first couple episodes of season 1 of Bad Batch. They don't really know. They're not like the biggest into Star
Mhm.
Wars, and they're like, like what is this though? And they sort of fall off. Like say in the Moochie episode, like they sort of fall off of it, and they don't know that it goes to these heights. But I think
Yeah.
season 1 and 2, especially season 2, I think season 2 is reaching even higher heights as this dark
Yeah.
times anthology almost.
Yeah.
And like this, I don't know, this show, I'm just glad it exists. And we can talk about a little about news here in the
Sure.
last 10 minutes, but Star Wars Celebration, the panels got announced, and there is a
Mhm.
Bad Batch panel where it's like, and more. So it's looking more and more like there's going to be a season
So-
3.
Season 3, I think.
oh,
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
there was definitely going to be a season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The way this season's kind of looking out, I think at the end of this season,
Mhm.
I think the summit and Plan 99 is them getting Crosshair.
Crosshair.
Yeah.
Because it looks like he's in Tantus now.
Yeah. Or,
Yeah.
Oh yes, we did talk about that. The
Quickly
end
in that
part
little
when
end
he's
credits.
there.
Oh, that
my,
was
my take is that it would have been a stronger episode, like on its own, if you didn't include that. Like, I think if it had just ended with Crosshair like passing out on like the tarmac,
but-
would have been a little more
but it-
powerful. I know you got to
but if
set
you-
up the next.
But if you end it at him passing out,
I agree
you
with
end
that,
it
Ben.
and
Dead.
people go,
Yeah.
You
Did
go,
he die?
did he just?
I know, and then you have a
Oh, that'd
week
be
of, like,
awesome.
is this
Yeah.
it? I don't know.
Because that's what I was like. I
I'm
was
with
like,
Ben on that.
I know.
Crosshair
I
just
think it would have
died?
made the episode is a little bit better. Like if it
A fraction better.
fraction better. Personally, I just
True.
actually thought it was a little goofy in like the last little frame as it sort of like it gets a little like blurry and like
Okay.
it doesn't
No,
feel like a
it's-
sound
was
ending.
fine. I was fine with
I
it.
just like
it was
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it was perfect and then it sort of
Mm.
tacked on this sort of like
Mm.
and next time on Bad Batch and it was like I don't think it needed that.
Yeah,
And
I
and
mean,
honestly, a lot of the episodes so far in the show, like they don't do that usually. Like
yeah,
look at the end of Solitary Clone. That's
Yeah.
just like that's just sort of like it just ends in a very like
Yeah.
very contained
Mhm.
to the story
Yeah.
it was telling in that
Yeah.
episode.
Well, these
So
last few episodes sort of have been though. I mean, look at
No, yes. I mean, this is
Mm.
definitely like starting this final arc where it's gonna be
Yeah.
Crosshair on Tantus,
Mhm.
and like it's gonna be all be sort of connected. Like I don't think there's any more
Yeah.
one-off like
I think-
adventure
I
of the
think-
week.
I hope not. I want there
Next-
to be.
I think
Yeah,
next
I want
week
this.
is going to be the last. It's going to be a one-off.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think next week's going to be a one-off, and then I think
What is the
guys-
episode called next week?
I believe
Pabu.
next week is Pabu.
It's Pabu. Okay.
Yeah, I think that one's.
Pabu? Oh.
I think that one's probably going to be the last one because they still have to deal with Sid, right? The batch still has to.
Sure, but the last thing we got with the batch right was Hunter making the choice to say
Then getting
send
ready.
the data
yeah.
to
Yeah, but they
Echo,
still need
right?
to. They still want to like end their agreement with Sid so they
Yeah.
can.
But I think I would argue even finalizing ending the agreement with Sid that's main plot development. If they're like we're
Yeah.
done with you and now
Yeah,
we
but
gotta go.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that's- I
Well,
wouldn't consider that
either way,
bad.
I think that Cross.
think-
Well, I think we know that Crosshair is supposed to be in every episode from here on out, right? That's been
I
talked
think
I have
about.
no idea.
I would assume from
I heard people talk.
Episode
I heard
14.
people talking about this. I can't remember
Okay.
where it's coming from. I don't know. The people that work on the show tweet a lot about it as
They
it's being as it
That's
comes out
true.
week to week. It's very funny.
Yeah, I've been avoiding any spoilers, so I'm kind of.
Yeah,
I'm
I
happy
never
and
got
content on my own,
spoiler. I
not,
just-
not knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, either way,
Oh, yeah.
obviously, Crosshair's end game has been set, and I think that next
Right.
week we'll be sort of setting up the batch for that
Mhm.
like final 3-episode run. So
Yeah.
Right. Wow, we're that close already. Oh my god. Oh, there's another
It's
16
so
episodes down in the can. Wow.
Well, because we've had a couple double episodes though, and there's
Yeah.
only
The
there's
last
in the
two
last
episodes
two
were
are
double,
same,
right?
yeah, So episode
So-
5 of Mando
There's
is
like
when it
3
all
more
comes to an
episodes.
end.
Yeah.
there's gonna be a Mando episode and
Mm.
2 episodes of wow, yeah.
That is the
Yeah.
only night I will be watching Bad Batch first. I think just because
You want to see the finale?
I
I want
hate
to see the
that.
finale.
Mm.
I mean,
know.
you hate it. It's true, though. Honestly, I might be with
You're
him.
gonna do it. You're gonna watch finale first.
I think I want to watch Bad Batch finale first. I don't know. I mean, like I would always just opt for the finale because that's the big thing. I don't know. It's not
gonna
here
be-
nor there.
yeah,
But
I'm
but
sure it's
For
gonna be
reaction
big.
purposes.
either
we're
way,
gonna
I
do
mean,
Mando,
yeah.
but-
So to the point of it being like
We can
upsetting that we're having this
we can
stuff
react to that.
coming out on the same day.
Bad Batch finale. Okay.
To the I guess the positive that we found is that we can be like today is crazy because we just like think of all the content we got today. We got like 2 just awesome episodes.
Yeah.
But it is still too bad that it's happening.
But for anybody who's editing, they're up late.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, we're all content creators, so
Oh, for sure.
we have to deal with that side of it. But I think even just to the to the casual fan, I think it's still a little like
I think it's too much.
it's too
I think
much.
yeah.
It's like
Uh,
and
Don't split
looking
your
at it
fan
from-
base. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
looking
like you
from a
have to
marketing
decide.
perspective, like
that
you
what
want
you're
your
gonna watch
thing-
first. That shouldn't be a
i-
question.
if you want it to
Yeah.
be a water cooler show, like you want people to go and be like, "Hey, did you catch the new Bad Batch? You catch the new man?" You don't want to have to
No,
double up in
Of
those.
course, Mando's gonna
conversations.
overshadow that. Like, there's not
Yeah,
even
for sure.
contest.
Yeah,
So it's just
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. We've criticized it a lot, so I mean, there's not much
Yeah.
more to be said in that front. But it's
Yeah.
just it is what it is at this point. So I'm just gonna enjoy having all that Star Wars on any given day because
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's good.
I mean, what a night though to have 2 very powerful stories play out before us, and
Yeah,
so much
no,
to talk
yeah.
about. The
That's
internet's
okay,
like Twitter's been buzzing today. It's like crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to sort of wrap things up on. Is there any last thoughts about either of these episodes you want to get out there? We want to discuss.
Great week of eps.
Yeah.
Two.
I'm excited to see where both shows go at this point and
Same.
where we continue.
I'm going.
Absolutely.
I'm going 8-3.
What are we more excited for? What are we more excited for?
Well,
Mando or Bad Batch next week?
Mando, but
Mando,
I
yeah.
Bad
Mando at the
Batch.
moment.
Okay.
And I gotta go with Bad Batch.
Yeah, that's
There you
My
go.
heart-
There you go.
My heart's always with the patch. I gotta go,
Yeah.
boys.
There.
Yeah.
They also
Respect it,
put
Shia,
out
respect it.
the hot toys of them, and I'm like, I can't afford.
Are you
the other
getting
two
them?
guys. Yeah, when I get paid next.
You're right. You're right.
yeah.
8-3,
They look great.
9-6.
So
8-3. Interesting. I'd probably go like 9-0-9-9.
for
Yeah.
Bad Batch.
Yeah, well, for Mandalorian and Bad Batch respectively.
I was up there
I-
with a 10-10 because
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
yeah.
Yeah,
for
they're both they're both that
8-6
good.
Mando, 9.
8-6, a couple low on the.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Nine-
give this
nine-
one
nine
an
four
8. I'm giving this
Bad
an
Batch.
8-3. I don't know. I just
Those may change.
Sindari and Mythosaur, like just seeing Bo and Din were obviously the highlights for me.
I just love the
You know,
both
I think
stuff.
just
I like
Alright,
the
well-
pacing of one better, personally.
I don't agree with that at all. but I think maybe that's maybe a conversation for another time. Thank you guys so much for watching live. If you're watching on the VOD, we appreciate you watching as
Yeah.
well. Thank you, Brent and Chad, for coming on. You can check
Thanks,
out Brent
guys.
at the Age of Grogu and Chad. You've changed your handle, right? It's no longer Chad
Yeah,
BCI? Yeah,
it's like Chattalorian 7732 or something like that.
something like that.
something
That
like
guy.
that.
Something
One
like
of
that.
those.
And sometimes on the Convor call,
And some
whenever
for
we
the-
do things.
Yeah.
There you go.
Of course.
And obviously, you can find us at the All New Nerds. And why don't you leave your thoughts on these episodes down below? And we'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.